I'm here with my man, Anderson Cooper. We're standing here outside at the Citadel. He's getting ready for the debate he's going to be doing in a second.
This is actually literally how I started on television.
On television?
Yeah, doing my own
Absolutely.
Everybody, Anderson Cooper, Jacob Soboroff. I'm trying to do it, baby. At Why Tuesday, we asked the question, why do we vote on Tuesday? Because we want to start a national conversation about election reform. Here in the United States, since 1945, only half of the people that are eligible to vote have actually gone out and done so. We want to figure out why that is, what our elected officials can do about it, and that's why I'm here today. Guys, we're in the press filing center waiting for the debate to start. I have no idea if our question's going to make it into the debate, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Hope you are too. I'm live blogging at whytuesday.org. Stay tuned, and I don't know, I'll be back at you soon. Howard Dean's talking right now. We're watching a closed circuit feed here inside the press filing center. I'll just give you a little tour actually since nothing's going on yet. Check it out. There's my computer. These are all the big screens. We're watching the debate. You see journalists from around the world. John King, CNN, Chief Political Correspondent.
Whether it's questions about executive power, whether it's questions about campaign finance reform, or questions about the mechanics of how we vote, when and how we vote, what technology we use when we vote, I think you can put that all under the headline of broken government. Some would say that term's too pejorative and call it something more neutral, like problems we need to address, but there are certainly things that are broken.
But I believe I'm the only candidate here, along with Al Gore's call for that, is a corporate carbon tax. You've got to tax polluters. You've got to separate the price differential so that we can move away from fossil fuels that do so much damage to our environment, to our economy, to our future.
The debate just ended. There was exactly one question about election reform. It came from Melissa in California. It was a great question about standardizing a national ballot, but that was just about it. And there was only time for Bill Richardson to answer the question. No other candidate addressed election reform. There was one question on it, even though America ranks behind 80% of the countries in the world in voter turnout. So right now, I'm headed up to the spin room to talk to some of the candidates and their advisors about election reform and try and get some real answers.
Representative government is not doing the job. Correct. Not doing the job for you, and you're asking me why people don't vote. They're saner than the rest of us. Stop and think. You vote for a Democrat, nothing happens. You vote for a Republican, nothing happens. You get back to the Democrats, nothing happens. Well, you know what? Einstein defined that as insanity. Repeating over and over again something that doesn't work.
Sure.
Now you're asking me why we don't turn out to vote? I mean, why should he? A person doesn't see any change. Might as well stay home and take care of his family. Might as well take care of his job, or sit on the couch, sit on the sofa, and watch a ball game.
Election day is in the middle of a week, Tuesday. Do you know why we vote on Tuesday?
No, because it's silly. Because you refuse to accept that the present body politic does not want to let you get involved. And what I'm telling you, the only way you're going to change that, here, the national initiative that I'm talking about, you can vote 724s, and you can vote for anywhere in the world. Just get on with your with a PIN number, or on a kiosk, or on your. Why can't you? Here, we move billions of dollars around the world, and we can't even do it. Right now, I'm hoping that we all have voting by ballots. Paper ballots. I don't trust the system for a half a minute.
Slow voter turnout, in my opinion, is because we have machines and processes where people have doubt about whether their vote's going to count. So why should you make this huge effort to vote if there's some chance it won't count? So we obviously need to do. Chris Dodd was not asked the question tonight. He's done some great work in making certain that we fix our voting systems. John fully supports that and thinks, in fact, we need to go even further to make certain that there is always a paper trail. In fact, if there's only a paper trail, that's better than if we have a voting machine that does not have a paper trail.
The best, we can do things in the process to encourage people to vote, but the best thing we can do to encourage people to vote is make people believe that voting matters, that voting counts, that if they vote, their voices will be heard, that they can affect the policies in Washington, and that they're not simply changing teams, but changing the fundamental direction of this country.
Making Election Day a national holiday, moving to the weekend. Does he have any position on that?
I think that all things should be on the table, but it's not going to matter unless people believe that voting really counts and that their government is listening to them, that they have a voice.
But you don't believe that having voting on Tuesday in the middle of the week is a disincentive for people to vote?
Well, I think that it may be a disincentive to people, but I think the greater disincentive is that people have lost faith in politics and government as a channel to deal with their problems. They feel divorced from all of that. We have to change that. We need leaders who are going to inspire people to believe that they can make a difference through their vote.
People want their vote counted, and they want their vote to count.
How do we, beyond counting votes, how do we raise the level of voter turnout in America?
if I, you know, my campaign is telling the American people, look, if you vote for me, I'll rally the American people in the cause of providing everyone with health care, a not-for-profit system. If you vote for me, I'll rally the American people in the cause of free college for everyone. If you vote for me, it's a new doctrine on defense, strength through peace. We end these wars for resources. We take a new role in the world where we use international law. So people will vote if they have a reason to vote, a person to vote for, and that's what my role in this campaign is all about.
Beyond that, are there structural changes that can be made? Do you have an opinion on making Election Day a national holiday? We're moving Election Day to the weekend?
Of course it should be, but you know, we may not get to that this election.
I think the party has a long way to go in terms of election reform. There's a bill working its way through the House, which I don't think goes nearly far enough. And I think we need to do the things that need to be done. First of all, OptiScan is the right thing. Secondly, every state ought to have them. Thirdly, we ought to ban the DREs. Fourthly, paper trails, which is what OptiScan is all about. Fifthly, we ought to have public financing of campaigns. Election reform is critical. Campaign finance reform and election reform are critical to clean up politics.
What do you think about making Election Day a national holiday?
I think it's a good idea. We should either move it to a Saturday, Sunday, both, which some of the European countries do, or we ought to make that Tuesday a holiday.
Senator, what about election reform? It was another issue that you had no time to answer at all. And you're one of the candidates that actually put forth some election reform legislation. Can you talk about why that's important?
Well, it's critical. It's the right upon which all of the rights depend. And again here, no one thought I could get an election reform bill done that had standards in it with resources to go back to the states, and I did it. And we had the first time statewide voter registration. We had provisional balloting. A civil rights action can be brought if you're denied those rights. And every state wants to do this differently. You can't have one system for all states.
Why not?
Because the state of Washington wants to get rid of polling places altogether and do it by mail. Other places want to have allow you to vote for a month or a month and a half before Election Day. Each state wants to be able to do this differently. Standards ought to be the same, but allowing states to decide how best their people want to cast their ballots is something I'd be reluctant to say the national government ought to tell everybody exactly how you're going to vote.
Why not make Election Day a national holiday?
Well, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate issue here. I think you're setting a date certain for it. You want to start voting earlier than that, that ought to be a legitimate question, but I'd be uneasy about having one country tell every state exactly how you're going to vote in federal election, other than meeting the standards and making sure people have access to vote and have their votes counted. And again, putting the resources into polling places, poll watchers, all these other issues that have been denied to too many people over previous elections.
So you're comfortable with the potential of moving Election Day to a national holiday? Or maybe
I'm very confident. I think it ought to be tried. We're going to experiment with it anyway, see how it works here. Certainly to get much more participation than we do at about 50% of the eligible voters in this country. What are we doing? Everything to make it easy for people to vote.
Do you know that America lags behind 80% of the nations on Earth in voter turnout?
I don't doubt that at all.
Stay tuned here, 2ytuesday.org, and watch our videos on YouTube. There's going to be more coming up. We're going to continue to talk about the issue of election reform, and we'll be back at you guys soon.